Once upon a time, in the quiet kingdom of Illyria, nestled between whispering woods and silver-blue rivers, there lived a princess unlike any other. Her name was Evelyne, and her beauty was the kind poets sang of: hair like golden threads woven by sunbeams, eyes as deep and blue as the twilight sky, and a voice as soft as rain on spring petals. But it wasn't her beauty that set her apart. It was her soul, kind, curious, and filled with a longing that no riches or titles could satisfy. Evelyne often wandered alone in the palace gardens, her silk slippers brushing through lavender and lilies. She would speak to the wind, the flowers, and the stars, asking the same silent question over and over: what is my purpose beyond these palace walls? Her heart longed to know the world, not as a royal, but as someone real, someone who felt the warmth of fire from stone hearths and the roughness of calloused hands after honest labor. She wished, above all, to love and be loved, not for her crown. One day, while exploring the forgotten wings of the castle, Evelyne discovered an ancient room covered in dust and silence. At its center stood a tall mirror framed in dark, aged wood etched with foreign runes. Its glass shimmered, unnaturally clear, as if it did not reflect the room but another world entirely. Curious, she stepped forward, and as her fingers brushed the mirror's surface, a cold wind erupted from nowhere, wrapping her in invisible chains. She gasped, tried to scream, but the room had already begun to vanish. In the blink of an eye, the princess was gone. The kingdom wept. Days turned into weeks, months into years. None could explain her disappearance. Many believed she had run away. Others feared she'd been taken by dark forces. Only the king and queen knew the truth of the mirror, and even they did not understand its magic. Inside the mirror, Evelyne stood in a world of silver and shadow. She could see the world beyond her parents, aging, her kingdom mourning, but no one could see her. She screamed. She begged. She sang songs of sorrow and hope, but no sound crossed the barrier. Time passed differently in the mirror realm. She never aged, never hungered, but her heart ached constantly. Every day, she stood behind the glass, praying anyone would notice her reflection. Then, one chilly morning, nearly 20 years after her disappearance, a young man named Corwin arrived at the castle. He was not a noble, nor a knight. He was a humble mason's apprentice, sent to repair part of the aging castle walls. He had grown up in the village of Windmere, raised by his grandmother, who had once told him stories of the lost princess trapped inside a mirror. He never believed them until the moment he walked into that forgotten room. He had come looking for old stones to reuse and stumbled into the chamber. At first, the mirror was nothing more than an odd relic. But then, as he wiped dust from its surface, something caught his eye. A girl. No, a woman. Beautiful, radiant, yet cloaked in sorrow. She stood behind the glass, her eyes locked onto his with such intensity it stole his breath. Corwin took a step back, confused. But the woman raised her hand, mirroring his movements, and then pressed her palm to the inside of the glass. Without understanding why, he pressed his hand to the same spot. And then he heard her voice, not with his ears, but in his heart. "Help me." The connection was brief, but powerful. Corwin stumbled away, heart pounding. He could have fled. He could have ignored the strange vision and told no one. But something about her eyes, the desperation, the loneliness, they stirred something deep within him. He could not leave her there. He returned that night with oil lamps and a book of legends borrowed from the castle library. As he pored over ancient texts, he learned the truth. The mirror was crafted by a sorceress centuries ago, a tool to trap the soul of anyone who wished too deeply for a different life. Only one with a pure heart, not born of royalty or wealth, could see the prisoner inside. And only one moved by love could set them free. Love, Corwin scoffed. He didn't even know her. But each night, he returned to the mirror. Each night, they spoke wordlessly, through expressions and touch, through dreams and silent songs. And slowly, impossibly, love bloomed. Not the kind born of fairy tales, but a deep, aching affection that grew from shared sorrow, hope, and need. One night, Corwin laid his hand on the glass and whispered, "I'll find a way." The next day, he disappeared from the kingdom. Weeks passed. Evelyne began to lose hope once more. Had he left her like all the others? But one evening, lightning lit up the mirror chamber, and Corwin returned his arms full of scrolls and a tiny, glowing vial. He had traveled to the far mountains, crossed freezing rivers and whispering forests, and found the last living descendant of the sorceress who created the mirror. She had given him the potion and the words, "True love is the only key." Corwin approached the mirror, trembling. "I don't know if I'm worthy," he said aloud, "but I know I see you. I know I would give everything to set you free. Evelyne, I love you." The mirror shimmered. Light poured from its frame like starlight, and the runes blazed red, then gold. "Drink it," whispered a voice, her voice from behind the glass. He did. The mirror cracked. Arms if that heart is brave enough to hope. Not shattered, but split down the center as if it were a chrysalis breaking open. And from it stepped Evelyne real, alive, tear-streaked and trembling. Corwin fell to his knees, overcome. She reached for him, pulled him into her arms, and for the first time in 2 decades, the princess felt the warmth of another human being. The kingdom rejoiced when they returned. The king and queen, gray and weary, wept with joy. Stories spread like wildfire of the mirror, the curse, the commoner who had loved enough to break it. Evelyne refused the throne. She had seen too much, suffered too deeply to return to royal life. Instead, she and Corwin built a small home near the edge of the woods. They lived simply, tending to the land, raising children who knew both humility and magic. And in their home hung a single shard of the mirror now dormant, harmless, a reminder of the truth they had lived. That love, real love, sees past titles and curses. That freedom sometimes comes only when we are truly seen. And that even a heart trapped behind glass can find its way into another's